Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. My name is Aaron Hoisington. I am here with Ryan Nelson, the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management, one of my good pals here. And Ryan, how is the day treating you today?
Today's treating me pretty well. How's today treating you?
You know, not too bad. Every day above ground's a pretty good day, I would say, or so I've heard. So, just excited to learn some things, sit here, gain some financial or some fiscal knowledge here. So, you ready to share some stuff with the listeners today?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Love it. And all those listeners out there, these podcasts drop every Tuesday morning. Please set your calendar, your watches, whatever you use to that. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube as well. So just search, I think it's just the Fiscal Physical Podcast or Alchemy Wealth. One of those two, both of them will pop up with this podcast. If you want to check us out on YouTube, you can listen to us there. So appreciate it, everybody. Today, Ryan, we're going to talk about one of those things that I hear these terms thrown all around here: hedge funds and private equity. The idea, I feel like everybody who's a hedge fund manager or works for a hedge fund is filthy rich. That's what I always see with these things. Like recently, or I don't know how recent it is, but there's NFL owners, NBA owners, all these different people, MLB owners who are these just seem to have this unlimited amount of money as hedge fund managers. And, I think of the word hedge and I'm like, something I cut with like my grass kind of thing, or I think of I've dabbled in some gambling previously, like, I'm hedging my bet kind of thing. But I don't know how this actually works with, what hedge funds are, what private equity are, and how those kind of, who they might be for, whether it's the right decision, and just any information on it. So whatever you can share for us, my man, I'm all ears today.
Let's do it. So what is a hedge fund? So a hedge fund, I'll just read a definition here real quick. A hedge fund is a private investment pool for wealthy investors managed by professionals who use a wide range of strategies to try to generate high returns. So, private investment pool for wealthy investors managed by people that are using different strategies to try to generate high returns. Okay. Right. So that's what a hedge fund is. I think what makes it so yes, a hedge is not a bush in this case. If you're hedging a bet, for example, you're trying to reduce risk, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And so these people, oftentimes, originally, if you're dating back and looking at why is this actually called a hedge fund, it would be because they would use hedges in these investments to try to reduce the risk of the pool of funds. Now, they've evolved a lot and stuff, and I think largely there's not a lot of hedge funds left, but the ones that are still around I think their primary focus is trying to get absurdly high returns. That's kind of their shtick. I think usually the type of client who goes into a hedge fund is really attracted to really large returns typically. That's not true probably of all, but so they use different strategies: short selling, leveraging, arbitrage, derivatives, some of which may not be easily accessible to an average investor. So that might be one of the reasons why somebody might want to use a hedge fund. It's typically only for accredited investors, which we can talk about what an accredited investor is down the road, but they typically only accredited investors could access a hedge fund usually. So this would be high net worth individuals. And then they have less oversight. So from a regulation standpoint, they have less oversight than mutual funds or exchange traded funds. And they typically are going to be higher risk than an exchange traded fund or a mutual fund. And again, the shtick is hopefully higher returns, right? So a typical fee structure, I think you can't talk hedge funds without talking fee structure. So usually they'll refer to their fee as 2 and 20.
Okay.
So what 2 and 20 means, it's a 2% management fee. So they're taking 2% of your portfolio every year, regardless of what happens. And then they're taking 20% of the performance.
Whoa. Okay.
So, let's say you had $100 invested.
Love easy math.
Yep. If you have $100 invested, and let's say they got you a 10% return, so 2 and 20. So they'd take two of the $100, so $2 there.
Yep.
2%, and then they take 20% of the gains. So in this case, you made 10%, so
right.
$10.
Yeah.
So they'd take 20% of the $10, so $2 there.
Okay.
So 2 and 20, they would have taken $2 and $2, so they would have taken $4.
Okay.
So instead of your account growing from 100 to 110, it would have grown from 100 to 106.
Okay.
So kind of the shtick is like, hey, they're going to try to get you really big returns because they get 20% of all the returns. If they go get you 50% returns, they're getting a big chunk of that, right? And so, again, it's usually higher risk. Sort of an analogy I like for hedge funds is that of like Formula One. So, like Formula One's this really flashy racing series, really expensive, right? Really fast, really dangerous. And so like, if most people should not drive to work in a Formula One vehicle.
Sure.
Is it faster than their vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely faster than probably the car you're driving. Well, it's definitely faster than the car you're driving. Does that mean you should drive it to work? No. It's taking way too much risk. You're going to kill yourself. You're never going to get to retirement because you're going to hurt yourself, right? And there's no so higher risk, higher return isn't always better, and that's important. But typically these funds are kind of going for that higher risk, higher reward type thing. So again, that Formula One, while it might be fun to watch, probably most people shouldn't be racing a Formula One car on the streets, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's a good analogy there. Or I don't know if it's good, but it's an analogy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a hedge fund?
I
Do you know any hedge funds?
I don't know specific. Well, actually, I was looking at this podcast, and the owner of the New York Mets is named Steve Cohen, is his name, and he has one that's like it's called SAC, or it used to be SAC or SPC. I can't remember which one it is, but it's his initials. I know it's S and C at the end, but there's his initial. That was one that he originally like started or owned, and then they had some financial things with the FCC that got, or whatever it is. Yeah. But that's, I don't really know any nowadays. Like, I don't know how widely or public knowledge those kind of things are really even like.
Yeah. So there's this cool story. So long-term capital management, you've never heard of that? Probably not then.
Really. Okay. No, I don't think so.
So there's this fund called long-term capital management, LTCM. And so I just pulled up a little bit of info here to give us more context so I don't butcher as much of this just going off of memory. Sure. So the fund was founded in 1994 by John Meriwether. And so it included two Nobel Prize winning economists.
Oh, wow.
And a bunch of other just geniuses.
Sure.
So all these economic geniuses came together, started long-term capital wealth. And it got a lot of traction. And they were doing really well. And so let's try to find their returns here. So from 1994 to 1996, so they averaged over 40% annualized net returns. They just got really popular really fast. They got over $100 billion. They quickly grew to over $100 billion with just $4.7 billion in capital. They just were off the charts, doing phenomenal.
Yeah.
Moral of the story is they collapsed.
Okay.
So they went out of business. They closed down and almost triggered a financial meltdown that basically the government had to bail them out.
Oh, wow.
And the point is they were taking too much risk. So they were oftentimes leveraging 25-1 and stuff. So it's they were getting these astronomically high returns, but there's no free lunch. You can't get these free returns, these great returns without taking the appropriate amount of risk. And guess what? You can walk across the street or you can run a red light and nothing happened to you. You might be able to run 10 red lights and nothing happened to you. Yeah. If you run every single red light for the rest of your life, you're going to get hit eventually, right? And so kind of a similar thing, it's they were taking too much, most people believe, they were taking too much risk and then therefore went under. So really fascinating story. So if anybody wants to Google it or look more into it, long-term capital management, just really interesting story that they have. But anyway, so that's probably the most popular or notorious or famous hedge fund. And so again, it's kind of think of it as that Formula One race car, super high risk, potential super high rewards. Is it appropriate for most people? I don't know. That's for them to figure out. But like if you think about this particular example of long-term capital gain management, those people were making a fortune for a while. They also lost everything.
Yeah.
So that's hedge funds in a nutshell. I'll go on to private equity, but any questions there on hedge funds?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about you like the astronomical returns and big returns in these things too, because like I think about hedging things. Like I think you mentioned it, like it reduces risk normally. Right. That's like how I think of like, oh, I'm going to hedge this because I'm going to take the guaranteed money here or whatever. But like it's interesting to say. At least historically, or maybe that wasn't exactly how hedge funds really worked, I suppose. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah. And I think there's probably still some out there, of course, who are very low risk, right? I think there's probably still some of everything, but they are slowly becoming less and less popular because their fees, like I mentioned, 2 and 20.
Yeah, that's it. That's huge.
I don't know how, depending on how familiar you are with financial services in general, that's a very high fee. So yeah. I
mean, it's got to be, the juice has got to be worth the squeeze,
right?
For sure. So, cool, man. No, that's good on hedge funds. Let's move into the old private equity here.
So again, I'll read a quick definition here. Private equity, or PE, oftentimes you'll hear this referred to as like PE. So private equity involves investing directly in private companies, not publicly traded, or buying out public companies to take them private.
Okay.
So makes sense, right? Yeah. Private equity, you're buying into private companies, right? So these are terms, you don't need to really know these, but like you probably heard these terms: venture capital, growth capital, leverage buyouts. These are all types of PE or types of private equity. So like venture capital, you're usually investing in these early stage startups.
Right. Yep.
Growth capital is like helping companies scale. And then leverage buyout is like using debt to buy out a company. But and so the goal, the analogy here, so if I used a Formula One car for hedge funds, you can think of the analogy here as like flipping a house.
Okay.
So some people will buy houses, stay there for 30 years. There's other groups of people who just buy houses with the intent to flip, right? So they'll buy it, fix it up, and sell it a year, sometimes months later. They buy it, put new carpet in, paint it, sell it a month later. That's how a lot of this private equity works. You go buy a company, you maybe put new leadership in, right? You paint it, you put new carpets in, right? So you maybe install your leadership, you do something, maybe you change pricing structure, you change a marketing, maybe a sales funnel, and then you try to resell it. So it's like flipping a business is usually what private equity is doing. It's buying a company and then trying to sort of improve it and sell it for a profit. Usually, so if like the house flip, I said you might do it in a couple of months. You're not typically going to be able to flip a company in a couple of months. It's usually going to be a 5 to 10 year play. But it's kind of that same concept. So I think it's a decent analogy. Like just instead of buying a house, you're buying a company, you're improving it, you're flipping it, you're selling it. Makes sense there?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely does. Yeah, it really does.
Cool. So then if we were to ask like, okay, so do these, so like, where do these fit in?
Yeah, so that's a big thing that I'm like, cool. Like that makes sense. Like, how does one get access to them, or is it right for a person? I don't know.
So I'd say first, it's not. Yeah, they're not. To your point, they're not for everyone.
Yeah.
Most retail investors don't even have access to them, unless you're buying them through like a vehicle. But for most, in all intents and purposes, most retail investors don't even have access to these types of funds. They're primarily going to be used by institutions like a pension fund or an endowment or ultra high net worth families. And you really have to evaluate that risk return profile. So it could come with higher returns. It's almost certainly also coming with higher risk, though. Is that appropriate? The other thing to consider would be the liquidity. So like if you go put $1 million into this private equity, are you going to be able to get any funds out of it until they sell the company? If you're like, it's kind of like buying that house to flip. If you go put $500,000 down on a house to buy it to go flip it, and then a week later you need money for something, you're like, shoot, all my money's tied up in this house. I don't have access to it. It's not liquid, right? And so a similar thing, if you're investing all your money into like private equity, it's going to be hard to get liquidity out of your money, right? So are you willing to give that up? And then again, they're going to be probably more volatile, both hedge funds and private equity. So just be aware of that. So if you're like, okay, that all makes sense, but I'm, should I?
Is it right for me?
Yeah.
Should I get in on this?
Yeah. So again, harping on this again, these are typically for accredited investors only. So who's an accredited investor? It's going to be somebody with like $1 million or more. net worth excluding your residence. So you have like $1 million of investable assets, or somebody earning $200,000 or more per year, or somebody like myself. I'm actually an accredited investor because of my education, right? So I have certain licensing that therefore qualifies me as an accredited investor. So you're either a high net worth, high income, or have some sort of education.
Okay.
So they don't want anybody just to be able, it's kind of to protect consumers. You don't want, in theory, you don't want like these people preying on lower income, lower net worth, uneducated people. So it's like, okay, in order to get into this, you've grown $1 million. Hopefully you have some education there, right? Yeah. You have a lot of income coming in, or you have this actual education.
Well, you also think about it like Formula One, like you can't just have like you have experienced drivers, people who've been who are pros. You don't just want anybody off the street coming in and being like, cool, let me drive this bad boy. Like kind of thing. That's just dangerous for that individial, probably.
Exactly.
So if we're sticking with Formula One, that's a pretty good way to
I think that's that's a good tie into the analogy for sure. Cool. So then, so again, you'd have to be an accredited investor. So that's first and foremost. There is some alternative access. You can Google that if you want to, but for this conversation, we'll keep moving forward. So for most clients, like for me, like if I'm the type of clients I'm working with, we're focused on retirement planning. We're figuring out what's the highest likelihood we can get somebody to their retirement goal. It's not, hey, is there a way that we could turn this money into $1 billion?
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's figuring out how can we get you to your retirement goals with the absolute highest likelihood, right? And so if you were to take that same approach and again, if we keep using the Formula One analogy, it's like, what's the safest way to get from here to my house? It's probably not going to be the Formula One car, right? And so similarly, you just want to evaluate like what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish, and then see if it aligns with those goals. Let's see. So we already talked about the accredited investor. So really kind of a summary. I'd say the fee structure around most hedge funds and private equity are going to be like that 2 and 20. So 2% upfront, 20% gains. Private equity is a little different, but they oftentimes still call it 2 and 20. It would just be from an interest rate standpoint. The liquidity on hedge funds are low. On private equity, it's very low. It's like almost impossible to get your funds back out. The transparency, hedge funds, very low. Private equity, very low. Whereas normal sort of mutual funds and ETFs, the costs are going to be, 1% or less. So half, more than half as much as a hedge fund or expense. The liquidity is very high. You can sell it anytime you want. And the transparency of these hedge funds and the ETFs and mutual funds are required to disclose certain things. So there's a lot of transparency in what you're investing in. So again, for most people who are planning for a retirement, I'll say these hedge funds and private equities probably aren't the primary tool to get there. Could they become a piece of a tool in maybe a small sliver of a portfolio down the road? Absolutely. If a net worth gets high enough. But for most people, I'd say as they start evaluating the risk, return, and fees, it'd be a hard sell to maybe justify using hedge funds or private equity.
Just looking at the fee structure specifically, like you're just like, whoa, okay, like that's quite a bit different in these certain things. And then you add in the liquidity piece of it and the transparency because, I mean, you're like, hey, cool, how am I doing or how are things going? Like, and being able to kind of figure that out could potentially be a little bit more difficult if you're in a hedge fund or private equity specifically. But then again, if you're in those, hopefully you have the education and the ability to like kind of know how these things work versus like that Joe Schmo off the street being like, cool, I got $1 million, like let me get in on this racket kind of thing too. So as with anything, we're gonna, as we kind of come to the end of this section here, like make sure you speak with a qualified individual. Ensure your goals. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to get to your house safely?
Sure.
Is it the Formula One car? That could be fun for one ride. But are you going to be driving that every day?
Right.
Maybe not the best move for you over there, but everybody's different. Talk to your financial advisor, to your tax planning individuals, and find out kind of what works best in your case for sure.
Perfect.
So awesome. Appreciate it, Ryan. Hopefully you guys learned something here, and everybody hang tight. We'll be right back on the other side of this.
Perfect.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back, everybody. This side of the Physical Podcast. I'm still here with Ryan, and Ryan, we're going to mix it up a little bit this week here. We a couple episodes back we talked about streaming services. And, to plug a streaming service, I have a bundle with Hulu and HBO.
Nice.
And I've been watching this show. It's called The Last of Us.
Okay.
On there. It's actually based on a video game.
Is it the new season?
Yeah, the new season.
Oh, I didn't know that was out.
Yeah, they got the new season out. It's seven episodes. If anybody's watched spoilers,
no, don't spoil it.
I'm not going to spoil it, but it's I'd watch it if you like if you ever saw the first season. Second season's good. I never played the video game myself, but apparently it's relatively like on par with that too. So, but in that, there is the aspect of zombies and these certain things. And so it got me thinking. I was like, would Ryan rather brave a zombie apocalypse or an alien invasion?
Yeah, I get that question a lot.
Same with it's like second asked question, like should I pay off my house?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking about adding this to my FAQ section on my website. Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. For me, it's a no-brainer, really. I mean, aliens it would have to be such an intelligent life form to be able to get to our planet that, like, they are technologically more superior than us. So that seems like probably not very wise for us. Whereas zombies, I'm no zombie expert, but they're seemingly like slow and can't see well and kind of dumb. And like you could board up your house, but an alien would probably be able to get through that just fine. So yeah, for me, it's an easy answer. Zombie apocalypse. What about you?
Yeah, I was in that exact same boat. I mean, there's the piece of, I guess you don't know what you don't know as far as like, I mean, I've seen so many movies about or shows about like zombie apocalypses, and they're like, kind of portrayed like you just mentioned, like nice and slow. You're like, cool, I like that. But I am terrified of fast zombies. I refuse to watch like movies. I was like, hey, cool, like it's like zombie. I was like, is it fast? Are they fast or are they slow? Because like slow ones, I'm pretty fine with. Like, all right, if it's a fast one, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie World War Z.
Nah.
Whew, boy, it's terrifying. I was like, this is exactly my big fear. Like these are smart, fast zombies. Don't like that.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, I think it'd be, the idea of an alien invasion is kind of, hard for me to fathom as well too. Like you mentioned, they'd probably have to be intelligent enough to get through our atmosphere and like not burn up and invade our planet. Like, so we'd probably boned at that point. If we're being honest, like we're not going to survive that. But I guess just for the sake of like the unknown, I'm like, give me an alien invasion. Let's see what happens. See what kind of happens in that case.
I think one theoretical selling point of the alien thing is that in order for a species, I mean, I'm speculating here. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about by any means, but in order for a species to get so technologically advanced that that they could like travel interstellar, like I would have to imagine that they have some sort of like basically internal ethics and stuff. Like I don't think you create a civilization that large, that complex without destroying each other. Like, so the fact that like they haven't destroyed each other with their own technology makes me think that they're probably just not out to destroy everybody else. Like, I think if we somehow were able to travel interstellarly or intergalactically, whatever the term is, I don't think if we stumbled upon another planet with life, we would then just immediately destroy it. We would say, this is fascinating. Let's learn, like, whatever. So I do think the saving grace of like, if I have no reason to believe that if aliens found us, they would just want to destroy us.
Right. They'd be like, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this pizza? I'm in.
What's his name? Tyson.
Neil
deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. He has this quote. I love it. He's like, he's talking about, there's this argument for like, do aliens exist? And Neil deGrasse Tyson's of the opinion that they do. And other people's arguments are like, well, if they existed, why haven't they, if there's more intelligent species out there, why haven't they found us? Like, it's been billions of years.
Sure.
And he's like, what makes you think that like intelligent species haven't come to our planet and deemed that there was no intelligent life there? and he says it as a joke, but the like, he's like, the difference in intelligence between like apes and humans is like 1%.
Yeah.
So like, if there is a species like 400% smarter than us. Like if we look at an ape and we're like, that thing's not like smart or whatever.
Yeah. I
then
want
like
nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Imagine something that's like 400 times smarter than us comes to our planet. They're like, oh yeah, there's just like organisms. Like, it's just kind of a funny concept, and we get so caught up in like, just what we are and what we know. But
yeah. Oh no, that's great. Yeah. I think he's I recently watched him on Celebrity Jeopardy. He was on there, and he lost, and he missed a space question, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
he's like, oh, I don't call them that. He was like a moon question, and he's like, oh, I call them satellites. Is like what he said instead of like a moon of something. He just didn't know how to do it. He's like, wow, but he's a really funny guy.
Yeah,
like just in general, like you don't really get a lot of times those people who are insanely intelligent, like the humor piece of like tends to like be missed sometimes, and like if you can marry those two, which he's done pretty well, like it's kind of that ideal combination.
He's super smart. I think he's not like, I mean, I don't know the guy, I've never met him, but he calls himself a science communicator.
Yes.
And I don't know that he is actually like necessarily like a genius or anything. I think he just really likes science and is a good communicator of science. I don't know that he's making like scientific discoveries or anything. So to your point, I mean, it is probably hard to have both, both sides of that coin sometimes, but
he's an interesting. I'd love to have him on the pod. So if Neil, if you're out there, if you want to come on and talk about financial or whatever you want, dude, we'll have you on for sure. So awesome, Ryan. Appreciate it as always, man. We'll go ahead and wrap this bad boy up, and everybody out there, take care. And Ryan, why don't you play us out here?
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.